What's up everybody, it's William2K, and today we'll be starting a new series on the channel. Now I haven't uploaded in a while, but we're going to try Stoneblock 3. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to jump into the portal, and it's going to pull up this screen. We're going to choose the original for our selections. And here we are. So in the quest book, it kind of outlines the basic ideas. So the first little bit is stone, followed by the nether, followed by the inn. So to get more advanced materials, we have to dig outwards. Here we're just going to explore the quest book a little bit more, see if there's anything in here that we want, and get started by punching some rock to get little tiny stone fragments. Now with these stone fragments, we can craft 4 of them together to get cobblestone. However, luckily for us, our first quest reward was a stone paxel. So we can then just use that paxel to harvest the cobblestone directly, almost skipping a step. We go ahead and make our crafting table and use our crafting table to make a stone hammer and crook after a little bit of confusion. But sure enough, we finally figure it out and get those items ready, being rewarded a cooking pot, a gold paxel, and an iron rod for our efforts. Now the next step is to go ahead and take the cobblestone and hit it with a hammer to get gravel. Next, we can take that same gravel, put it back on the ground, and hit it with the same hammer to turn that into dirt. And lastly, take the dirt, hit it with a crook, and we go ahead and get our plants. Now I was really hoping for a oak sapling, which we didn't get in this, so let's go ahead, gather a little bit more cobblestone, and then take it in the crafting table, compress it, put it down, hit it with a hammer, turn it to gravel, turn it to dirt, put down that dirt, and go ahead and crook it again. This time we were luckily able to get an oak sapling and some grass seeds. So we're going to go ahead and print that oak sapling on our grass, claim a few quest rewards, and get back to grinding. Now with our first little bit of wood, we're starting to have some inventory problems, so we're going to go ahead and make some chests, put all of our materials in there, get them nice and sorted, and claim a couple more rewards, and then off to the races. We've decided that we're going to go ahead and get the quest rewards for the Tinker Construct quests, which means we have to make a part builder and a tool station. Here I'm having a little bit of trouble as they've changed the recipes, I guess in the new 1.18 update. But eventually, after a little bit of problems, we make 2 crafting stations on accident. But eventually, we're able to figure it out, get our tool station, our part builders down, and upgrade our crafting table, even getting an iron paxel in the process. The next thing I wanted to look at was a way to get clay. I saw the dripper and thought that could be a good resource, so I went ahead, crafted it up, and was confused to say the least. I put it down in the world and really couldn't figure out how it functioned. I clicked on a little bit, placed the dirt, but as we had no water yet, I decided that we would save this till later and instead go back to farming resources and building up a little bit of infrastructure instead. So our next goal is going to be getting the millstone, which means we need to dig down and find andesite, which is at levels below Y -55 and above levels Y +55. In the beginning, I believed that a staircase would be the best approach to get there, but upon going down and returning back to base, being greeted by an enemy who happened to drop a mob soul for us, I quickly figured out that lighting may be an issue. So I decided to pivot. Instead of making a stairwell all the way down to 55, I would instead make 60 ladders, dig all the way down, and harvest the andesite that I needed. Upon returning to base, I was able to make the crank and the millstone as well as a gear, and set that up over on one side of the base. Took a second to figure out how to use it, but once we started, we were grinding and ready to get some resources. After I felt like half of my life had been wasted spinning this crank, I finally noticed that the gravel had stopped emitting, dropped us iron, coal, and some raw zinc. Smelted this iron up and used it to make our first cauldron, which for this pack was our way of getting water. All we had to do next was make some shears, grow a tree, and harvest the leaves. Upon putting the leaves into the cauldron, it just turned directly into water, no wait necessary. After a little bit longer of farming, I was able to make a couple more buckets and harvest our first bucket of water in the entire pack. Not wanting to run out, I decided the best use of our first bucket would be to go ahead and start an infinite water source. So I went ahead, made another bucket, and got that going. As with any pack, our next goal would be to go ahead and get our first lava bucket. Unlike many packs, in this pack it's quite simple. As you saw, we combine a couple sticks and we just hold this on some stone, and bada boom bada bang, we get our first bucket of lava. Now, obviously we don't want to be hitting the rocks on the wall for the entire pack to get lava, so our next goal was to make a cobblestone generator, and for that I went ahead and made a barrel, figured out a good place for it to go, and placed the barrel where I would be most comfortable placing it. Now we return to the dripper. Upon a little bit more investigation, I learned that if you take a bucket and input it directly, such as this, into the dripper, it, well, functions. So it makes me feel a little bit dumb. Otherwise, we are back to grinding resources to work on our next goal of the pack. That goal being, obviously, our cobblestone generator that we just mentioned. For this recipe, we actually need 6 compressed stone, so that took a little bit longer to smelt than I believed, but there it goes, and now we are generating cobblestone for free. Not very fast, but for free, might I add. So now back to grinding, and this time we're actually working on some grout to get a smeltery from Tinker's Construct started. And there is our seared melter. Now the seared melter is a little bit different than the smelter. It takes a solid fuel source such as coal or charcoal instead, and it can only melt 3 items at a time. However, it's early game and it's a necessary step in order to get the smeltery that everybody would be used to if you played older modded Minecraft. Now to this, we attach the same seared casting tables, and for now, I'm going to use sand casts in order to get the iron out, which is just putting 1 piece of sand in a crafting table, and then using some sort of ingot to make a mold in the sand. Then this will allow you to output your iron or whatever other resource inside the smelter as you normally would. So now that we have our melter set up, we can now look at upgrading our cobblestone generator. And for that, we first need a casting basin and some seared brick in order to melt inside of the smelter. Or should I say the melter. Now, at first when I did this, I believed I'd only have to melt 3 or 4 of these bricks in the melter. So I melted 4 and went ahead and put that in. As you can see, 1 block, but I quickly found out that it would take a little bit more than that. 4 blocks in total. So I went back, got enough bricks, and went ahead and filled up the rest of it. And casted our new cobblestone generator, which I went ahead and placed over where the existing one already was, just to increase our cobblestone generation for the time being. After a little bit more grinding, we were able to get our press, which we can use to take iron ingots, if I could actually throw it underneath of it, but to take these iron ingots and press them into plates, which is required for a variety of recipes inside of Create, and is one of those things that is blocking us from moving forward. The first item that we need to make with it is actually the encased fan, so we have to make the propeller with those iron plates that I mentioned, and then go ahead and make the fan. This fan is more or less how it will be generating resources throughout the pack. And so I went ahead and set up a small section in our base that would be dedicated to this. We used a chute and a water wheel to power and supply resources into this system. Now in this case, we will be just applying a little bit of sand in order to test the functionality. So we put sand in the chest and we wait just a moment, and as it travels along the stone, it will slowly turn into an assortment of resources. After waiting a few seconds, we can see that a variety of ores and such has dropped on the ground. A little bit too many to pick up in our inventory, so we have to make a quick chest in order to hold these. Something we'll be leaving over here in the future just to hold our generated resources. We can also see that some of these resources are nickel and silver and even clay balls, which we can see from REI. Upon further investigation, this copper that we are generating from sand is what we'll actually have to use to make our smeltery controller. So I figured we might as well get started. A cool reward for this was the Cobblestone Gen 3, which we quickly set up, and then we went back to grinding. I investigated the mechanical crafters and the grinding wheel, as this was the end of the starting guide. And then I got started on grinding up resources to make our smeltery and to start working towards that grinding wheel. Upon finishing our grind, I decided that even though the smeltery was almost done, I wanted to make it one more layer taller. And another issue that I've been having is how slow these machines are functioning. Granted, they all run off of manpower, which takes a lot of food, and our only source of food at the moment is apples, which isn't very efficient either. So I decided that it was time to finally hook all of these up to a water wheel. So first I was a little clueless as to how I would progress, but I started clearing out a space, and after giving it a little bit of time, I finally realized how I wanted to set this up, so I went ahead and got started. Upon finishing this, I wanted to spruce it up a little bit, added a couple andesite casings on the rods, and they were left with what seems to be a pretty functioning system. It's all powered by a water wheel and, quite frankly, doesn't have to use the crank anymore. Upon further investigating, our next step is going to be to make a soul flame, and for that we need some sand, a soul, and some water in the mixer. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in, and there's our soul sand. So as I don't exactly understand the mechanic, I went ahead and tested it. Just placing the soul sand down on the ground and lighting it on fire yields the soul. Now the next step was to figure out how to get more, because we need it for nether quartz and glowstone. And soon I found out that throwing sand into a fan with a soul flame in front of it will give that. Another useful thing that I found was this repair talisman. I guess I received it as a reward for one of the quests, and being unfamiliar with it, I took a moment to look, and as you can see, it slowly repairs the durability on all the items in my inventory, which will help us reserve tools and not bleed through tools. So now my next goal is to go ahead and set up that soul flame, so let me go ahead and get started, and we'll be back when I'm done. And real quick, combine a little bit of copper and zinc in the smeltery to get some bronze to continue work on the systems. And there is our soul flame. Water on the left, soul flame on the right. Next step is to finish off our smeltery. And as you can see, we now have 4 stories of smeltery. And finally, I decided to take a little look at these diamond auto hammers. They seem to be this block, or this mod pack's way to turn cobble into gravel, you get the deal. And seems to be the only block in the game that can actually turn our sand into dust. There might be a couple other mods, but this seemed like the easiest and most approachable option. After a little bit, I was finally able to figure out how it works. You have to pipe in the left and have some sort of output container on the right. So cobble in the left, gravel out the right, or right and left, whatever. So let me tear that down and come up with a system. And apart from that, we spent some time crafting the crushing wheel from Create for a little bit more resource generation, and continued work on our auto crushing setup for dust, dirt, cobble, sand. And there's our crushing wheels set up and going. Alright guys, so after that, I guess I'll give y'all a little tour of the base to finish off day one. So over here we have our auto crafter, as you saw when we craft the crushing wheel. Went ahead and put some lava on a pressure plate just to be able to smelt some things a little quicker. And if we come over here, we have our automatic system that we made, mixing, grinding, and pressing. And then over here, we have our crushing wheels. Lots of gravel on the top, and it runs down. Gives us coal, bauxite, iron, zinc, tin, osmium, and lead. Behind us, we have our 4 tall smeltery. And then if you come on into this little nook here, I went ahead and started growing some sugarcane, some cactus, kelp, bamboo, and saplings with the botany pods, just to make the collection a little bit easier on me while I was building this. And then the star of the show, we obviously have our washing and our, whatever you want to call this, soul firing. And right now it's all feeding into this chest automatically. Items finish about right here, so it leaves just enough time. And the thing that I spent an absolute enormous amount of time on, which we will most likely be overhauling in episode 2, is the system back here. So in here, we have these diamond auto hammers that we were looking at, and we have a chest full of cobblestone. There's a gold and iron crafter underneath it, and each line of this transfers 4 items every 20 ticks, so 4 items every second. 1 goes to cobble, and the rest feed into these. And these will auto hammer the cobble into gravel, gravel, dirt in there, dirt to sand in there, and then sand to dust in there. Now the system looks great. It looks like it's functioning. However, it's very slow. And upon further investigation of resources, 190 dust, about 1-2 a second, just isn't going to cut it. So we need to improve the system. But that is definitely a problem for tomorrow. We will be improving this system, and we will also be working on beautying up the base a little bit, because right now it really looks like we just live in a dirt rock. So thank you everybody for watching. It's been fun, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.